Well, all of Canada is talking about the letter sent to our country by President Donald Trump, announcing 35% tariffs on a range of industries. It's startling, and Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, is happily on holidays. He's been working so hard, don't you know? Hopefully he'll come back from his holidays, but you never know. He was busy talking to his European friends. Remember, he has 3 passports, so he's doing business there. But another letter has come across Canada's desk. It was sent to the Canadian ambassador by a friend of Canada, who is the congressman for the 7th District of Wisconsin. Tom Tiffany has written a letter with his colleague Brad Finstad of Minnesota. And let me just read a couple of lines from it. And I'm delighted to say we have the congressman standing by to talk about his letter. It says, "We write to you today on behalf of our constituents who have had to deal with suffocating Canadian wildfire smoke filling the air to begin this summer. As we are entering the height of the fire season, we would like to know how your government plans on mitigating wildfire and the smoke that makes its way south." I'm going to skip ahead to what I think is the most important sentence of the letter. "While we know a key driver of this issue has been a lack of active forest management, we've also seen things like arson as another way multiple large wildfires have ignited in Canada. This worrisome trend can be reversed if proper action is taken." And it ends on a friendly note, which I'm glad it does. It says, "Canada has been a friendly neighbor of the United States and the states we represent. So given the significance of this issue, we urge you to relay this message to your government, in particular Natural Resources Canada and the Canadian Forest Service." And joining me now to talk about this is Tom Tiffany, the member of Congress for the 7th District of Wisconsin. Well, thanks very much for taking the time to meet with us.
Ezra, it's good to join you, and hello to all of our good friends in Canada.
Well, thank you. And I read the letter, and at first I didn't know what to make of it because Canada is sort of treading carefully these days. But I regard your letter as like a friendly note from a friendly neighbor just saying, hey, by the way, you've got some big fires, and can you help us? Because we're getting covered in smoke. It felt friendly, but you did zero in on forest management. Can you explain a little bit of what you mean by that?
What we've been seeing, I think, across North America, certainly we've seen it in our western states, Ezra, where as a result of lack of good forest management, we're seeing these massive wildfires. In fact, I would take you back to 1988. I have a chart that I use in the Natural Resources Committee that is the dividing line to me. That's when we here in America stopped managing our forests as we should and became much more preservationist in nature. What happened? Forest production went down, wildfires went up, and that's been the trend line ever since then. And we used to have really good forest management. I think the same thing is happening in Canada to a certain extent. Certainly, maybe some unique circumstances like you mentioned in regards to arson and things like that have happened also. But largely, it is the corporate environmental groups who have shut down logging to the harm of our economy, but also to our environment. And as a result, we see these massive wildfires and we get this smoke that comes down from Canada. And to be fair, it has happened coming from the western states here in the United States also. And I'm every bit as critical of them as I am of Canada.
Right. Well, we have taken a great interest in some of these fires. We had a very special campaign around the Jasper wildfires earlier. And of course, we set up a special website, helpjasper.ca. And it is a fact that our environmentalist federal government, especially former Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault, refused to do the natural clearing of the dead fuel. And if you just leave it there, that is a tinderbox waiting to go off. You use the word preservationist. I think that's sort of different from conservation, isn't it? Preservation is sort of like an ideology. Don't touch anything, don't allow any logging, whereas conservation would be, okay, let's have a controlled burn or a controlled cull of the trees. Tell me what you mean by preservationists and these corporate environmentalists. I take it you mean groups like Greenpeace. Give me a little bit more background.
Yeah, so conservation and management are the two key words that I use, and that's what we want to see happen. Preservation is simply not touching. And when you don't touch, those trees are going to go one way or another. You can either harvest them, they're going to go down via disease, and they're going to burn. one way or another, those trees are going to come off from the forest land because they have a certain shelf life. I mean, they have a life expectancy. So if you don't manage your forests as we used to do effectively, and much of that happened as a result of, if people remember the spotted owl fiasco out in the western United States a couple decades ago, which was just purely a preservationist play by environmental groups who do not believe in the greatness of America. They do not believe that we should be producing things here in America, and it's an attempt to bring us down. That's really what they're attempting to do, and that's why they filed the lawsuits. And that's a whole nother problem that we need to deal with in the Congress of the United States, is the frivolous lawsuits.
Well, Congressman, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Stephen Guilbeault, who was our former environment minister, who's now in another position in Carney's cabinet. He was one of these environmental extremists. In fact, he was arrested and convicted of, I'm not going to say eco-terrorism, but of a law-breaking stunt several times. So unfortunately, those groups, which you have accurately called corporate environmentalists, they're environmentalists of fortune, they're about drama and fundraising, they go straight to the heart of our Canadian government. And I don't feel like I'm tattling, I feel like I'm warning you. So let me ask you, you sent the letter on July 7th to our ambassador. It's been a few days since then. Have you had any response, or was it just sort of a perfunctory thank you for your letter, we'll pass it on? Have you heard anything from any officials on the Canadian side?
We haven't heard much from the ambassador, but I expect we will. But boy, have we been hearing it from some Canadians. They're like, butt out, why don't you people be good neighbors, all the rest. And I just, including the premier of Manitoba, answered us, and he was quite indignant about this. This is not an instance of where I'm saying I want to criticize Canada just because it's Canada. I'm equal opportunity in regards to this. I am critical of how California's been doing. Our United States Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management, who manage millions of acres, I've been every bit as critical of them also. Yeah. We need to change the paradigm. What has worked, what has been going on for the last 3 to 4 decades here in North America with this preservationist mentality is harming North America, both its environment and its economy.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair to the Premier of Manitoba, and he's got this great line. He says, we'll never be your 51st state, but we'll be your number one best friend. And he's actually an interesting fella. I can understand, but I thought your letter, it had concern in it, but it also had friendship, and it also had a recognition that some of these things are outside the hands of government, like arson is a real issue. But at the end of the day, there is a political decision in there, and it is to, we just talked about it, not culling the trees. And so there is fuel. And you're so right. I actually visited Los Angeles when it was still smoldering, the Pacific Palisades. And so there is horrendous forest and water management too. And frankly, in other places like even Lahaina, Maui. Well, how do you hope this, Anne, what are you hoping to hear back if the Natural Resources Canada or the Canadian Forest Service writes back to you? What are you hoping to hear in return? And I think that they'll be diplomatic. I thought your letter was diplomatic. It got a lot of attention up here. What are you hoping to get back from the government itself?
So job number one of the letter has been accomplished, as you just cited, Ezra. And but we're looking forward to the dialogue that can happen in regards to this. But this is a serious issue because we've had scrolls running on our local weather reports, not so much the last few days or last couple of weeks, but a month ago, you saw that regularly here in these upper Midwestern states like Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Be careful if you're going outside because there's going to be significant plumes of smoke that are going to be over your state or over your region. And in fact, they had weather maps showing almost like where thunderstorms are. They'd show where the clouds are. And they're telling people, if you have respiratory problems, you need to stay home. Now, if a factory was doing that, Ezra, we would go to them and say, you can't do that anymore. Right. We're saying to our good friends in Canada, you've got some of the same illness that we have in in America with the corporate environmental groups who want to be preservationists. start managing your forest, deal with the arsonists and others, because it does have an impact on us, and we want to be good neighbors along with you.
All right. Well, your message is certainly being received, and I appreciate the spirit of neighborliness that you're showing, because I really, I just as a personal confession, I have found the last 6 months to be a difficult time, because I'm such an admirer of the United States, and we're not used to quarreling with our best friends and neighbors. And it's my hope that we can work together constructively. I agree that you raise a very important issue. We've raised it at Rebel News ourselves about terrible ideological mismanagement of force. And hopefully your letter will yield a positive response. And by the way, fixing that problem, the number one beneficiaries of fixing that problem would be Canadians, of course. So hopefully this will have a positive outcome, Congressman.
That's certainly the intent of the letter, and I look forward to working with our good friends in Canada.
Right on. Well, thanks for taking the time to meet with us today. We've been talking with Congressman Tom Tiffany of the 7th District of Wisconsin. Thanks.
Keep up the good work, Ezra.
Okay, you too. There he is. For more, follow us at rebelnews.com.